Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari.
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 Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari.
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe.
Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe.
Jaya Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe.
Radha Kunj Bihari, Radha Kunj Bihari, Radhe.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Haladeva Mai Subhaja.
Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva Mai Subhadra.
Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Bala Gopal, Jaya Srinath Ji, Jaya Giri Govardhan.
Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai.
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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shiva Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Shiva Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol,
Jai Gaura Hari Bol,
Santakoti Vaishnavinda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna. So, welcome to our discussion today on, we're not done celebrating Gaur Purnima. Can anyone get enough of Gaur Purnima? So today we'll maybe cap off our festivities and just set the stage for the remainder of the year. You know, we started this whole journey celebrating the glorious appearance day of Advaita Acharya, and then Lord Nityananda, and so many other wonderful personalities, and it kind of culminates with the appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which we celebrated on Thursday, just 2 days ago. So today's discussion, I hope to illuminate and magnify the extraordinary mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We say Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. He is Mahavadanaya, he is most merciful. Because he came to give Krishna Prema Pradayate, to give Krishna Prema. And most merciful because normally when we have a very nice gift of something extraordinary, we're very selective in where it goes. For one reason. Why are we very selective? If we have something extraordinary gift, we may not give it so broadly. Maybe we don't have so much of it. It's limited. But Krishna comes in the mood of a devotee as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and brings with him an unlimited storehouse of mercy. And that mercy was distributed in the form of the holy names to awaken this Krishna Prema. And we see that he was giving it to everybody and anyone. And actually the recipients first were the most fallen. The most fallen of the fallen were the most cherished recipients of this mercy. And normally we look for the most qualified, right? Who's qualified to get my gift? Who's very nice to me? Who reciprocates loving with me? You know, that's how we typically just think who are we going to distribute, right? When we have something to give. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being Mahavadanaya, he said, who is the most undeserving? And that person's will get. And then we'll work our way up. So we say a flood of mercy. When the flood comes, the water finds the lowest ground first. So this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. You all can come forward a little bit so you feel more cozy. And those in the back can. Okay. And everybody always keeps an aisle away from me, so in case I need to run out of here, I have a quick escape path, so I appreciate that very much. But I promise I'll not run out unless you kick me out. So you can fill in those blanks also. So today we'll read a verse we've been reading for the last week or two. but this is from Adi Leela, verse number 20, that is called The External Reasons for the Lord Chaitanya's Appearance. So this is from Adi Leela, chapter 3, and some of you who are there Thursday will remember this verse. It goes as follows. Apani karimu bhakti bhava angakare apani achari bhakti shikamui sabare. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. I shall accept the role of a devotee, and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. When one associates with a pure devotee, this is the purport. When one associates with a pure devotee, he becomes so elevated that he does not aspire even for Sharsti, Sharupya, Samipya, or Salokya, because he feels that such liberation is a kind of sense gratification. Pure devotees do not ask for anything from the Lord for their personal benefit. Even if offered personal benefits, pure devotees do not accept them, because their only desire is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by transcendental loving service. No one but the Lord Himself can teach the highest forms of devotional service. Therefore, when the Lord took the place of the incarnation of Kali Yuga to spread the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, the system of worship recommended in this age, He also distributed the process of devotional service on the platform of transcendental spontaneous love. To teach the highest principles of spiritual life, the Lord appeared Himself as a devotee in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sadhajatam Sanagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Samadutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Vanam Sarana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, this is Krishna Himself speaking, this verse, where He is thinking, I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in 1486 on the Purnima day. And He appeared as Himself. So, this is not an avatar of Krishna. This is Lord Chaitanya's avatari. He is actually the source of all avatars. This is Krishna appearing as Himself, but in a specific mood, in the mood of a devotee. So He's actually coming in a covered kind of presence. And through this discussion today, we'll see how Lord Nityananda is working to try to uncover the real glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, now we can sit here too, so you can see better. No problem. So, as it says in this verse, He came to teach the process of bhakti. So who can be the better teacher of devotional service than Krishna Himself? Right? So this is the perfect set of instructions. And He also came to experience the glories of bhakti. Now this is very perplexing, because bhakti is so potent and so powerful. It is so overwhelming in its experience, one experiences of bliss and happiness, that even Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, Ishvara Parama Krishna, the one who is the source of everything, even he cannot understand the full glories of bhakti. Now that's kind of a head scratcher, right? How Krishna himself. But it's there. And that is why he actually comes in the mood of a devotee. One, to teach all of us, but two, to personally experience its glories himself. He is eager to taste the joy and bliss that awaits all of us if we follow the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's how amazing it is. That is the glory. It is like, someone who is cooking a wonderful meal for somebody, and they say, "Oh, I want to also enjoy that wonderful meal I'm cooking." That's just some sort of way for us to contextualize. But Krishna himself is looking to experience this glorious bliss. And that is the confidential reason, which is explained in the very next chapter of this Adi Leela. Very sweet chapter. And as I mentioned, he is most merciful. Why? Because he gave this gift to even the animals. He did not even think, okay, I'm going to find the lowest humans. But even in the Jharkhand forest, we know, even he engaged the lower living entities in the chanting of the holy names, which should give us some confidence that this is the universal process for all of us, no matter where we are. And he gave us his greatest gift of chanting with relatively the simplest of process. Just chant. Though we make that even itself so difficult, in reality, it is relatively straightforward. Right? And so this is his great mercy. And we see he came with one instruction. What is that?
Chant.
That's three, right? That's one instruction. Just chant. 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 He appeared at a time of an eclipse. Why? Because he knew everybody would chant at the time of the eclipse. And he would chant and chant. He would cry and cry incessantly as a baby. And the only time he would stop, when they would sing, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, he would get all the residents nearby to sing. And he would cry and cry until they would sing Mahamantra, and then he would stop. And in this way, from his very birth, he was engaging everyone in chanting. And for 48 years that he manifested his pastimes here, that was his singular mission. To spread the glories of chanting the holy names of the Lord, and to engage everyone and anyone in this most sublime process. And he did it in the streets of Navadvip. He did it in the homes of Srivasangan. He did it all throughout India through his travels, and of course in Jagannath Puri. So all throughout he went to spread. And then he made the very bold and accurate and most merciful prediction that these holy names will be chanted in every town and village. Not every town and village of Bengal or of India, but of the world. And by the unlimited mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we see that prediction manifesting some 530 plus years later. That in every town and village, virtually, we can see these holy names being chanted. And that Harinam Sankirtana movement, inaugurated by none other than Krishna himself. So this was his single instruction. So today we'll discuss a pastime that most of you know very, very well. So it's actually in Chaitanya Bhagavat one of the longest pastimes discussed in all of Chaitanya Bhagavat. It covers 558 verses. So very extensively described by Vrindavan Das Thakur. And we can judge just by that its great importance. And as I was reading various pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I was planning to actually skip over this pastime, thinking I've read this many times. But somehow I started reading it. And I read it, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" I mean, I must have read it so many times, 4, 5, 6 times. It's so sweet. And it brought out so many amazing realizations that I thought we can try to share and discuss them here. Again, in a story that's very well known. So the theme, though, is to simply highlight the extraordinary and unimaginable mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how powerful. And the second goal, when in this purport, Srila Prabhupada talks about this transcendental, spontaneous, loving service, and we may think to ourselves, wow, what is the hope for me? I hope and pray that after we see and discuss today's past discussion, we'll never, ever, ever have that doubt of what is the hope for me, but we'll simply know how to actually bring it about, and never, ever doubt the power of bhakti, the power of the holy names, and the power of the instructions of Guru. By seeing the unlimited magnanimity or mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay? So, I guess just as a brief, how many of you have heard the story of Jagai and Madai? Most of you? Okay. So, we'll discuss more of the philosophy of it today. We'll weave the story in a little bit here and there. Won't spend as much time. If you've been in ISKCON for at least a couple of years, you're guaranteed to see at least 1 or 2 dramas on Jagai Madai. You're guaranteed to have heard at least 1 or 2 classes on Jagai Madai. It's a very, very well discussed pastime for so many reasons. But still, one never tires in hearing it. But there's so much nectar within it. And I've picked some sections to discuss in a little bit more detail that are a little bit on the beginning and the end of this pastime that I think also illuminate some great learnings for us that maybe we have not spent yet so much time discussing in the past. So that is the plan today. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he began in Navadvip, so this pastime takes place in Navadvip, before he's taken sannyas, before he leaves for Jagannath Puri. And Lord Nityananda has already arrived in Navadvip now. So the first 20 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadvip, Lord Nityananda was residing in Vrindavan. And so now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is preparing to really launch his Harinam Sankirtan movement. Lord Nityananda has arrived, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Lord Nityananda and Haridas, he says, Srinavana says, Ekadina, one day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he says, Shuna Nityananda, Shuna Haridas, listen, I have a mission for you. I want you to do? I want you to go out and preach this message. And he picked Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur very purposefully. Lord Nityananda is none other than Lord Balaram, the first expansion of Krishna. He is the source of Guru. He's Adi Guru. He's Guru Tattva. So what better personality to teach the process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to spread than, Lord Nityananda, coming from a great Brahmana family. So on the one hand we have Lord Nityananda. And on the other hand we have none other than Namacharya, the Acharya of the holy names, Haridas Thakur, who was so exalted in his chanting, he was bestowed this name by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, Namacharya, chanting 192 rounds a day, and yet having time to perform pastimes like we'll discuss today. So when we say, I don't have time for my 16 rounds, let us think maybe we have time, maybe we don't have the proper allocation of our time or taste. But Haridas Thakur, also being a non-Hindu, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in the purport that in Navadvip at this time was actually a quite diverse place. And so he thought, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought, between these two personalities, they can speak to all people. And so he paired up these power two preachers and said, you go out and you preach, and you start to take this message to everybody, right? And what was their message? What was the message? It was simple. You tell everybody. You say, Bala Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Kara Krishna Shiksha. You chant Krishna's name. You worship Krishna, bhaja Krishna. And Kara Krishna Shiksha. You do Krishna's instructions. You do these three things. And you go out and you preach door to door. Right? So, and you just go and beg every house. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, every house. You go and you start to spread this holy names. This is your mission. And he tells them that this is your exclusive mission. Don't say anything else. No need to speak anything else. Nothing more, nothing less. Simply, Bala Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Kara Krishna Shiksha. You just do these three things. And like this, so Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they received this very, very potent instruction to go. And of course, they were not begging, going door to door. They were giving. We'll talk a little bit about that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that, said, don't speak anything. And he said, at the end of each day, I want a report. There's a good manager, right? They say in business, you can't manage what you don't measure. So he wanted reports. So every day he was asking Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur for a daily report. You come back and tell me what you did. So it's accountability. So sometimes we wonder why I have to be accountable. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established a system. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would say, he says, and if anybody doesn't listen to you two devotees, I'll just chop off their heads. Of course, he was joking. But actually what he was doing is if they don't listen, even that I'll chop off all the heads of our anarthas, all the impurities in our heart that prevent us from taking this potent instruction, even from the great Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda. But like this, all the associates were laughing. And what did Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur do? Taking this instruction, they immediately went out and began to preach. And Vrindavan Das Thakur comments that they immediately went out with the order on their heads. This is intelligence. Following the instructions of Guru and Krishna. Too often we put our own, what about this? What about that? This might not work. This might work. No. Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, instruction came and they just went. This is Vyavasatmika Buddhi. This fixed intelligence, firm, steady intelligence in the instruction of Guru and Krishna. When we do that, we find perfection in life. When we let the whimsical mind offer its own interpretation, its own ideas, that's when things start to go awry. And so if we have any doubt about the pace of our progress or the direction of our progress, look to this. How determined and how fixed are we in these instructions? And to the extent we are, our path will be very straight and very fast. And so Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur immediately went out onto the streets and began to chant. And the instruction here is so critical. Chanting Krishna's name. This is the primary benediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the prime example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, his magnanimity. He is giving, all the potencies of Krishna himself into his holy names. And he's saying by this singular process, you can achieve the greatest that the living entity can achieve, which is Krishna Prema. The greatest achievement with the simplest of process. What could be more merciful? And this was the exclusive message that Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda were asked to carry out by Krishna himself. Achieving this Krishna Prema. And we were speaking on this on Thursday, so maybe repeat for some of you are there. But we must acknowledge and understand that to chant the name Krishna, everybody chant Krishna.
Krishna. Krishna.
It is no ordinary thing. We may think, I'm just chanting Krishna. But if Krishna's, all his energies are embedded within his name, that means when we are chanting Krishna, we are directly associating one-to-one with Krishna. If you want to go and directly associate with, some president of a country, can you do it? If you want to go associate, with your favorite movie star, which I know none of you have, but if you did, can you do it? Favorite cricket star, basketball player, musician? If you want to go meet one of them and associate with them one-on-one and shake their hand, you need so much qualification, right? Some introduction, some reputation, lots of, and that, whatever you have, that becomes like your great asset, right? I have the ability to speak to this person. You'll be very proud of that, no? So what qualification we need to speak directly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Extraordinary qualification. It is not some simple matter to be able to utter the name Krishna. It is an extraordinary mercy. And who is giving that? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is giving us the qualification to even utter the word and names of Krishna. But sometimes in our frequency of coming to it, we fail to appreciate what a great gift that is to be able to chant the names Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally given the responsibility to Lord Nityananda to distribute this qualification to all of us. So we are eternally, indebted to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for getting the qualification to chant even the name of Krishna. And we should never for a moment fail to appreciate the great gift we have of being able to chant Krishna's name and interact with him. And how many of us would have any hope to know who is Lord Chaitanya or who is Lord Nityananda were not for the inconceivable mercy of Srila Prabhupada? By his inconceivable mercy, he brought Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, all over the world and brought this message. So we should understand this extreme qualification required. Don't take it for granted, and how we are obtaining it. And embed that in our heart. Every time we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. And so, to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this mission, we also have a great opportunity. And that is two parts to serving Chaitanya. When we get something great, we should reciprocate. We should show our gratitude. And service is the best form of gratitude. And how we can serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Two ways. One, living these instructions. Making Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission fulfilled by living these instructions. And two, how can we do it? That's living the instruction. And two, spreading it. Where? Door to door. In every town and village. Without discrimination. This is the mood of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So by living this instruction, by chanting sincerely, and by spreading this message. And this is our opportunity. Okay? So now Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they go out and they are chanting. And they are going door to door. And they are telling everybody, Krishna prana, Krishna dana, Krishna se jivana. Krishna is your life, there's your wealth, it is your whole life, it is everything. And that is actually the fact. What do we have that is not coming by the direct mercy of the Supreme Lord? Every breath we take is a direct mercy of the Supreme Lord. Every food grain, every portion of our existence, we are dependent on the Supreme Lord. And so like this, Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda were spreading this message, And he would tell everybody, chant your names with ekamana, with one mind, full attention. Just chant the holy names of the Lord. And they went to every house, as Mataji said. And this is also very instructive to us. That this process, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, not to the forest to preach to some sages, not to the holy rivers to preach to those who may have assembled there. But he went neighborhood to neighborhood, door to door, right, to preach. This is meant for all of us, the masses. This is particularly in this Grihastha ashram. This process of devotional service is most ripe in this Grihastha ashram. And so to make sure that that was happening, he sent Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda door to door in everyone so that we can understand this great importance. And they were dressed as sannyasis, but they were not begging. Actually, when they would go, people would offer them different foodstuffs. They said, no, we're not here for anything, but we are giving. And what they were giving? Bala Krishna Bhaja Krishna Kara Krishna Shiksha. That's all they would say. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't say anything else. Don't add anything. Don't subtract anything. They would just go to everybody's house. Krishna Pana, Krishna Dana, Krishna Se Jivana. And they would beg and chant and receive. And we know, what was the reaction? Some were very pious. Oh, yes, yes, we will do. We'll take to it. And some, not so pious. Some would make fun of them. Oh, look at these two. They have been corrupted by that Nimai. His mind has been distorted. And now they have lost their mind. They've become completely foolish. They're going door to door like this. Some would make fun of them. Even some would become very angry. Particularly those who were not allowed to enter into the intimate kirtans at Shiva Sangan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu each night would have an ecstatic kirtan with just the intimate associates. And that was very exclusive kirtan with the associates. And those who were not qualified, they developed this mood of envy. And so when Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur came to their house, they would tell them, oh, let's beat them. And their life was threatened. And some would accuse them of being spies and thieves. Actually, our ISKCON devotees back in Srila Prabhupada's time, when they would go to different countries, particularly they went, I know, in Australia and in India, they're accused of being CIA agents. So this accusation of being spies is not new. This comes from even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time. Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur are accused of being spies, actually. So they faced, some people, yes, we will do, but also some great resistance. And so what did they do? Quit in the midst of resistance? No. They just carried on. And this is the mood of this is perseverance. They said they just laughed and kept on serving. How? On the strength of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. So they understood that when Krishna Guru, when they give an order, it is not an empty order. It is an order full of potency, of mercy, to execute that order. Sometimes we are worried, can I, hold up to the order of Guru, to the order of Krishna? But we should know, when Krishna Guru give order, it comes with potency to execute that. So they knew, Krishna had told them, right? Shuna Nityananda Shuna. Listen, you guys go out and preach. That was your order. And what they did, immediately went out. They did not do calculation. Do we have the ability? Do we have all the things? They just went out. Why? Because they had faith in this order coming from Krishna, and that it was. So they said, with the strength of that, doesn't matter. We're all good. And they carried on. So we have to also, take this, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us 8 orders, 8 instructions that we've been discussing last week, the Shikshashtakam prayers. This is direct mercy, potency from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself to take to this process of change. So this instruction, so Lord Nityananda and Haridas, they were completely confident and strong because they had faith in the order of Krishna and they knew it was not coming empty. So when we get order from Guru, order from Krishna, we should have no fear, understanding it is coming with potency. When we give order, it has no potency. We have just hope that it will come. But Krishna and this, so Lord Nityananda and them understood. So now, the encounter. We get to the encounter. Jagai and Madai, right? And their greatest of all fortune. So Jagai and Madai were two very well-known people. They were infamous in Navadvip. Why? Well, they were sons of Brahmanas, but they have lost their ways. We have to be very careful with our association. They were doing all kinds of sinful activities. They were drinking and eating meats and burning houses and stealing wealth, even murdering. These were the most wretched, sinful people. They would be drunk all the time. They would be rolling on the street in the middle of the day. They would, sometimes embrace each other, sometimes punch each other, and just complete menaces. People would run in fear. And they were giant. When we do the dramas, we often see two cute boys playing Jagai and Madai. But these were giant, think like sumo wrestlers. Huge. Burly, big, strong, and wildly drunk. Doing all kinds of nonsense. But actually their lineage was, they come from a family of perfect brahmanas, free of all faults. Again, illuminating to us that we may come into the perfect opportunity, but with bad association, we can lose it all. We must maintain good association. Jagai and Madai had the greatest of opportunity, but due to bad association, they became the most fallen. Actually, they had committed all kinds of sins. All kinds of sins. But they had avoided one. They had avoided one. Vaishnava Prat. And Vrindavan Das Thakur says, why? Because they never saw Vaishnavas. They were always with drunkards. So they had no opportunity to commit Vaishnava Prat. They had it relatively easy. So this was a great benediction for them. Vrindavan Das Thakur says that a drunkard in time can be purified. But one who has committed Vaishnava Prat, Vaishnava blasphemy, there is no hope for success. So even a drunkard can be purified. So they had that one thing going for them. They had not committed any Vaishnava Prat. Right? So Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they're walking down the street and they see these two people, unsightly messes coming. And all the people on the street are basically warning Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, you should run. They're asking, who are these people? And they started to give the whole history, how they're going to burn down houses and all these things. And people are jumping into bushes, hiding from them. And Haridas Thakur and Lord Nityananda are sort of looking around like, what's going on? So they were warned heavily, you should go away now. This is not a good situation. These two were drunk. They don't have control. They're very big, strong, and they have committed so many sins. They have killed millions of brahmanas and cows. Millions, thousands, whatever. So much violence they've already done. You run. So what did Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur do? Lord Nityananda said, how can we deliver them? They're thinking, how we can deliver them. And why? Lord Nityananda has a very specific reason. He says that if I can deliver them, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's glories will be known everywhere. When they were going door to door, people were accusing that Nimai had tainted their mind. They didn't know who this Nimai Pandit was. So Lord Nityananda wanted to bring out Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's glories. So he said, if these two can become devotees and pious, then who will doubt who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is? So to glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda wanted to find these two, so that his name of Patita Pavana, deliver the fallen, would be broadcast far and wide. We can imagine, take the most heinous and sinful person. We have some, very heinous, leaders in this world. And imagine, they're committing so many atrocities. And one day, they start reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. and they become the most pious leaders, and their whole country prospers, and they become these most amazing personalities. How people would wonder, who is this Srila Prabhupada? What message is it to see this transformation? Right? So like that, Lord Nityananda is thinking, if we can transform these two well-known, scary people into great devotees, then everybody will sing Gauranga Mahaprabhu's glories. And so for that reason, they decided to approach. And they also knew that if they can deliver this message, it is the direct service of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the mood of the preacher, the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servants. They want to glorify Krishna. And they also know the position. Who is the doer? Who is actually doing? And Lord Nityananda says, if the Lord bestows mercy on these two. He didn't say, let us go bestow mercy on these two. He said, if the Lord bestows mercy on these two. Though he was asked to preach and go out and spread, he understood who was the real doer. That was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because that order was coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the potency to execute the order was also coming there. And often we do this, when we are doing something and it goes well, I did it. And when it doesn't go well, Krishna, where were you? Krishna is there in all circumstances. So, this is the mood. So, Lord Nityananda then starts to, glorify Haridas Thakur as these two burly men are. He says something very sweet. He says, Haridas Thakur, if you think of their welfare, they'll be delivered. He said, when you were being beaten in 22 marketplaces, you were thinking of the welfare of those who were beating you. You were not chastising them. You did not develop animosity to them. You were praying for their welfare. And what did the Lord do? He delivered them. And Lord Nityananda says, Haridas, the Lord will never neglect to fulfill your desire. So you pray for them, Haridas Thakur, and they'll be delivered. And Haridas Thakur just laughs. And he says, Lord Nityananda, these two are already delivered because you have desired it. You are Adi Guru. You are the Lord Balaram. Just by your desire, it's already happened. And like this, they were batting back and forth the credit, and they were sort of smiling. And then they decided that they were going to go. They actually gave each other a hug and started to go. And others said, no, don't go. You can imagine. We're walking down the street, two very big, drunk, burly people who had a reputation for so much violence. What would we do? We would run away. We would say, Gurudev, not today. I'm sorry, not today. I'll come back tomorrow, but not today. But what did they do? They had confidence. They were confident. And their confidence was extraordinary. Lord Nityananda says, our responsibility is simply to repeat the Lord's order. Our responsibility is simply to repeat the Lord's order. If people do not follow, then it is His responsibility. How empowering is that? We don't have to worry. We fear rejection. Lord Nityananda, Haridas, they didn't fear rejection. They said it's just our responsibility to carry out the order. Whose result is it? Krishna's. Lord Nityananda says, if they don't do it, it's His fault. You can also take that. But if some success comes, you also remember it's His doing. His doing. But we still have our responsibility. Because it's His doing doesn't mean we sit idle and do nothing. No. We have our responsibility to go out and share this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We should not think, I don't have this quality. No. Just simply repeat the order of Krishna. That's what Lord Nityananda tells us. So that's one reason they were confident. But shockingly, Vrindavan Das Thakur writes that these two Prabhus, they chanted the name of Krishna and joyfully went towards these two. Now, even if we went to them, we'd be saying, Namaste, Narasingha. We'd be like, we'd be so fearful. But they had so much faith in the holy names that they joyfully went into the midst of this fire, if you will. This is how to become fearless, by taking shelter of Krishna. He is our ever well-wisher. Surdam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the one who will shelter us in all situations. Of course, we don't willingly put ourselves in harm's way, thinking and requiring Krishna to save us from, our lack of intelligence. But the point is, Krishna is our source of becoming fearless. And so, Lord Nityananda, Haridas Thakur, they had no fear, and they simply preached again, Bala Krishna, Bhaja Krishna. They told them, Laha Krishna Nam. That's it. So you can see now, they're speaking to Jagai and Madai, and they're saying, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita. Krishna is your mother. Krishna is your father. Krishna Pranadana. He is your life and soul. Everything you want. And Jagai and Madai, what did they do? Uh-oh. Then Jagai and Madai started getting angry, and they ran after them. These big, burly, drunk men. And again, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, don't think because they were drunk and big and fat that they could not run. He says they were running very swiftly. So Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, they turn around and said, uh-oh, we better run. And so they're running, and a very funny and sweet exchange takes place. Lord Nityananda's running. He says, oh, we'll be lucky if we survive today. And Haridas Thakur says, why did I come with this restless person? Today I'm going to die prematurely. Krishna just saved me when I was being beaten in the 22 marketplaces. And now because I've come out with this person, I'm going to die prematurely. Like this, Haridas Thakur is yelling at Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda said, hey, it's not me who is restless. It's your Lord who is restless. He's sitting like a king giving us his order, go door to door and preaching. And he doesn't know that we have to face these people who call us hypocrites and thieves and spies. Well, what to do? If we don't follow his order, we are doomed. And if we follow his order, this is what happens. And like this, they are kind of just bantering back and forth. And they are starting to run and run. And of course, finally, they got away. And they ran straight to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house. And they gave the report. And what did Lord Nityananda do? Lord Nityananda, he says, you know what? I'm done. He handed in his resignation. He said, until they chant, I'm not going out anymore. If they're there, I'm not going to do it. I'm done. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts laughing. But again, Lord Nityananda says that you get them to chant first. If you get them to chant, then they'll be delivered. And so Lord Nityananda always wanted to have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu get the credit for delivering these two. Now Haridas Thakur, he, on his hand, he goes to Advaita Acharya, and he lodges a big grievance. He goes to Advaita Acharya. He says, the Lord, he sends me out with this restless person, Lord Nityananda, and it's too much. You don't know, but during the rainy season, when the Ganga is full of crocodiles, he'll go and swim with the crocodiles, and I'm on the banks, fearing he's going to get bit, and he's just laughing, seeing me in anxiety. Then he comes out of the water, and he sees some boys, and he starts beating them, and then their parents come, he runs away, and I have to fall at their feet and beg for forgiveness. This Lord Nityananda, he'll go see some unmarried girls and say, will you marry me? And then their mothers come and they beat me with sticks. Then he'll go into the houses of the neighbors. One time I saw him and he was riding the oxen saying, I am Mahesha, I am Mahesha. What is this? He would steal the milk and cow, and always I am left. He is young and he runs away. I'm old and I'm always left behind caught. I've tolerated so much. But every time I try to correct him, tell him, you know what he says to me? What is your Advaita going to do to me? What is your Lord Chaitanya going to do to me? I'll do what I want. And like this, he's uncorrectable. He's so restless. Up to this day, I've not said anything, but this is the final straw. This Jagai and Madai he took me to, I almost lost my life. I'm done. And Advaita Acharya just starts laughing. And Advaita Acharya says, what is the big deal? 3 drunkards were together today. Lord Nityananda is fully intoxicated on the holy names, and he is with Jagai and Madai. But why were you there? You were a celibate. So the 3 drunkards together, but why you? And he starts laughing and telling Haridas Thakur, don't worry. You'll see. Nimai Nitai, within a day or two, these 2 personalities will become equal to us and one of our associates. This is how much mercy there is. And like this, he shared with Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur kind of calmed down a little bit, and after filing his grievance, and then when Lord Nityananda went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and filed his resignation, saying, I'm not going out anymore until you get them to chant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells Lord Nityananda something that's very, very important to all of us. He says, these 2 personalities were already delivered the moment they took your darshan. As soon as Jagai and Madai saw you, they were delivered. You know that, and I know that. No matter how fallen Jagai and Madai were, they were there. So what is our path to deliverance? Taking darshan of our most beloved Gaurnitai. When we take darshan of Gaurnitai with faith, whatever Jagai and Madai have done, we are just some tiny fraction, but will be delivered just by having darshan of Lord Nityananda. This is the power of Lord Nityananda. And as we are discussing, our Gaurnitai deities in our Devasadan Mandir are so potent and so powerful because Srila Prabhupada himself installed those deities. When a pure devotee of the Lord comes and establishes deities like that, they come with supercharged potency and power. These were one of the last deities in the world he installed before departing. These Gaurnitai deities are not ordinary Gaurnitai. All Gaurnitai deities are extraordinarily powerful. Just by darshan of them, you can purify even a Jagai and Madai. But even more potent, because Srila Prabhupada begged and prayed to those deities. And he said, my dear Lord, please accept whatever service my followers are rendering, despite whatever deficiencies and mistakes may be there. Please accept it. And we know, when the pure devotee of the Lord requests the Lord to do something, how does the Lord reciprocate? The Lord's whole life and soul is to fulfill the desires of his devotees. When Durvasa Muni offended Ambarish Maharaj, and he was being chased by the chakra, and he went first to Lord Brahma, said, no, can't help you. Then he went to Lord Shiva, Durvasa Muni did. Said, no, I can't help you. He went all the way up to Lord Vishnu. And Lord Vishnu recites a very beautiful verses about the position of the pure devotee. And he says that the pure devotee, like, my whole consciousness is absorbed in thoughts of my devotee. I'm not thinking about my opulence, my position as a supreme controller. I'm simply thinking about my devotees. So when such a devotee like that prays, we can imagine what the response is. And so this is the most amazing opportunity we have to serve these most powerful Gaurnitai deities. And if we do, we should have no doubt of our deliverance, our purification. But it takes some faith. And so all the associates were ecstatic hearing that these 2 had already been delivered. So now we get to the encounter. We know Lord Nityananda, some say the next day, some say a couple of days later, doesn't matter. One evening, he was walking in the street by himself, and he saw Jagai and Madai coming a second time. The first time he got away, the second time, now they are really determined. And Nimai continues, Lord Nityananda continues his preaching, saying, please chant, please chant. And Madai this time becomes very angry, and he hits Lord Nityananda with a clay wine pot. And Lord Nityananda begins to bleed profusely. But Lord Nityananda's response, he's smiling and says, keep chanting, keep chanting. He doesn't exhibit anger, revenge, doesn't hit back. It's compassion. But when word spread, we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in an instant, and he became extremely angry because his Lord Nityananda was hit. And when he saw the blood, there was blood profusely spread throughout Lord Nityananda's body. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became almost unconscious, so hurt to see that his beloved Lord Nityananda was hurt. He called his Sudarshan Chakra. And Lord Nityananda said, no, save. Jagai saved me from being hit a second time from Madai. And immediately, Chaitanya, really? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes a very powerful statement. He says, by protecting Lord Nityananda, you have purchased me. How do we obtain the love of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? By serving Lord Nityananda. He says, by protect, you have purchased me. Purchase means you can do whatever you want, whatever you want. He says, what do you want? Any benediction, I'll give you. And instantly he gave him Krishna Prema. Jagai passes out in ecstasy. He wakes up and he's seeing the four-armed form of Lord Vishnu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu puts his foot right on his chest. And Jagai grabs onto it and he's profusely crying and washing the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And again he passes out in ecstasy. Completely transformed. Now Madai, seeing that Jagai has been transformed, he feels in his own heart, he realizes his big mistake. So then he begs Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please forgive me, please forgive me. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we know, says, I cannot forgive you. Because you have hurt the body of Lord Nityananda, which is more important to me than my own. So you must beg forgiveness from him. And of course, Lord Nityananda very quickly forgives him. And Madai becomes forgiven by Lord Nityananda. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I have just now relieved you from all the sins you have accumulated from millions of lifetimes. Provided you don't do it again. This idea of becoming free from sins and continuing our sinful life is a major offense. To commit sinful activities and the strength of chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can never recover from such sins. There is no atonement process. You can atone for sins up to that point, but there is no atonement process for such sins. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that you're free from all your sins, provided that you do not do them again. So we should be very, very, very careful. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later on goes to prove how he took all their sins. And he took all their sins and he absorbed them in his body, and his whole form turned from Gauranga, golden, to black, blackish. And he turns to Advaita Acharya and says, how do I look? And Advaita Acharya says, Gokula Chandra, Shama Sundar, this very blackish form. And then a very important instruction came. He instructed all the associates to chant and kirtan, and all the sins left his body. And he said, they're waiting there. In all of Jagai and Madai's sins, they will fall upon one who blasphemes the devotee, who commits Vaishnava Prad. This is the heavy weight of committing Vaishnava Apradha. And all of those sins are waiting. So we should be very, very, very careful of this. So there are many important takeaways here. But we can observe the extraordinary transformation of Jagai and Madai. When we say Mahavadhanaya, immediately after this, he took them to his house, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. And they engaged in that very private kirtan, locked the doors, and engaged in ecstatic kirtan. Who was there? Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Lord Nityananda, Chandrasekhar Acharya, all the great intimate associates, Haridas Thakur, and Jagai and Madai. Exactly what Advaita Acharya had said earlier, that they soon will become one of us. Jagai and Madai qualified. Even, Lord Brahma and these great personalities struggle to enter into such kirtan. But Jagai and Madai were instantly purified and able to enter into this ecstatic kirtan. And they went into such amazing ecstasy. Then Jagai and Madai began to offer extraordinary prayers, glorifying all the devotees. And these prayers are so sweet. I wish we could read them all, but we don't have time. But I'll just try to summarize and synthesize some of the key points of these prayers. Extraordinarily marking the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says that in the Shastra we celebrate that Ajamil was delivered by the holy names, right? We celebrate that as some. He says their deliverance is nothing compared to what you did today. This pastime now minimizes the deliverance and the extraordinary feature of the story of Ajamil. And then he goes on to explain, Jagai and Madai go on to explain that Ajamil was chanted the holy names of the Lord. And in Shastra, chanting the holy names qualifies one to be free from the sins of killing millions of Brahmanas. So their liberation is what? Not so big deal. But even when they were liberated, when he chanted, the Vishnudutas came to save him. But you, Krishna yourself, and Lord Nityananda came to save us. Now, whose salvation was more extraordinary? So what you did previously pales in comparison. You may say that we attacked Lord Nityananda, but others have attacked you, Krishna, and you have salvaged them. And he gives the example of Kamsa. He says Kamsa had the opportunity to be in your association constantly, and he benefited from that. But even in that, he lost everything. Yes, he got liberation in the end, but he lost his whole kingdom and everything. We lost nothing. So their salvation, compared to ours, is nothing. Even Putana, who came as a demoness, they were salvaged. But only reason we know is because it's in Shastra. Nobody was able to deserve. Us, you saved us in broad public, in the vision of everybody. And like this, Jagai and Madai go on to compare so many other extraordinary and say none of them have even the smallest fraction of what has happened today. Glorifying the extraordinary mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And after hearing these prayers, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes very pleased. And he says, whoever hears these prayers will certainly acquire Krishna Bhakti. And who these prayers are coming from? Jagai and Madai. How much their purification happened that they became so intelligent to compose the most exquisite prayers that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself glorifies. But it's more. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells all the associates that these two are now my servants. You treat them accordingly. You forgive them for whatever they've done, and you treat them with the highest respect. They are my servants. He says it twice. He tells them, whatever food you offer these two, Jagai and Madai, is the equivalent of offering all the honey in the entire universe to Krishna. So much amazing. They began chanting 200,000 names of the Lord every day. 128 rounds every day. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to personally come and feed them because they would be absorbed in their circuit. They would forget to eat, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would personally come and feed them. And how long this transformation took? Minutes. A few minutes earlier, they were drunkards walking down the street, ready to try to kill Lord Nityananda. And by the extraordinary mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became Mahabhagavats. They became the pure devotees of the Lord with this type of fortune. Now do we have some doubt about what transformation we can take under the shelter of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda? We should have no doubt. But there's more. This pastime, all the devatas would sometimes come and see different activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during the day. So Yamaraj actually saw the deliverance of Jagai and Madai. And he asked Chitragupta, what sins these two have done? Chitragupta says, oh my master, if I had 100,000 scribes writing for 1 month and you had 100,000 ears, still we cannot keep up with the amount of sins they have done. Actually, we are failing in our duty and we are fearful because our job is to document every sin. But we cannot keep up with these two. So many sins they have done. And now they are all gone. If you tell us, we'll take the whole stock of notes and submerge them in the ocean. They're gone. So Yamaraj, hearing this, he then begins to remember the Supreme Lord. And he goes into ecstasy, thinking how these two were so instantly delivered. He didn't know the magnitude of the sins they had done. And he faints, he passes out. And he's not next to his chariot. And Chitragupta and the associate are wondering what to do. Then, Lord Shiva, Narada Muni, Shesha, they come. Lord Brahma, they're walking. They had just left Navadvip also. And they see Yamaraj passed out next to the chariot. And they're wondering what to do. So they start to sing the holy names. And Yamaraj slowly wakes up. And then this ecstatic kirtan ensues. And this ecstatic kirtan is happening. And what is it? They're all celebrating this extraordinary transformation of Jagai and Madai. Then Lord Indra comes and begins to engage in that. Shukadev Goswami, Bhrigu Muni, Kashyap, all these great munis are coming. Then Lord Shiva is dancing, Kartikeya is there, Lord Ganesh is there. Everyone is descended. And they are dancing. Narada Muni is dancing so much in ecstasy, he forgot his veena. All in celebration of this extraordinary transformation of Jagai and Madai and the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have not seen any such celebration. You might see some showering of flowers when different personalities are delivered. Dhruva Maharaj is going to the spiritual world, or a Jamya. You'll see some. Nothing like this. It just gives us an indication of how extraordinary, powerful the mercy is of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. Final straws of mercy. After this, Madai in particular, he continues to repent. He is already a Mahabhagavat. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already established that you will be my servants. They're already chanting the holy names of the Lord in full ecstasy. But the quality of Madai has become so pure that still he's repenting that he hit Lord Nityananda. So one time he sees Lord Nityananda in a secluded place and he grabs onto his feet and he is profusely crying and just begging for forgiveness and begging for forgiveness. And he's worshipping Lord Nityananda. And Lord Nityananda, and so he composes these beautiful prayers glorifying Lord Nityananda. And actually, these prayers also are worthy of another full set of discussion. They're so sweet, glorifying. And Lord Nityananda actually says that anyone who hears these prayers is assured to become my servant. And we know if we have just darshan of Lord Nityananda, our transformation is complete. So we can understand the potency of Madai's prayers. Madai! And these prayers. Amazing prayers. And Lord Nityananda says, get up, get up. I am now manifested in your body. He says, does a father get upset when a child hits him? No. That is your and I relationship. I took no offense. Please stop repenting. It is all good. And Lord Nityananda then says, one who worships Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is my life and soul. And then he says, I always protect such a person. So how to get the protection of Lord Nityananda? Worshipping Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And how to please Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Worshipping Lord Nityananda. Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga. This is the perfection of our devotional process. So sweet. Now, one final stroke of mercy. One last stroke, and we'll finish. When Madai was told by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that I cannot forgive you, right? Because now what was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mood? Was he happy?
No,
Furious. He almost passed out in fury. Sometimes we get very angry, our blood started, our hearts. He almost passed out. That much anger. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came not to destroy demons, he came to chant. Because his devotee, his anger. But how much love Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has is inconceivable. When Madai goes and begs to the feet of Lord Nityananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not take a neutral stance and say, let's see what he does. No. He tells Lord Nityananda, Lord Nityananda, since he has cut you, he is offering, you should forgive him. He has compassion for Madai still and instructs Lord. Of course, Lord Nityananda was going to forgive. Lord Nityananda says, whatever piety I've accumulated in my whole existence, I give to you, Madai. But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had compassion on Madai, even though he had hurt. And he said, you should forgive him. Then he goes further. When he says, you should pick him up. And you should show to everybody that you have bestowed your mercy upon him by embracing him. And when Lord Nityananda embraces Madai, all of Madai's potency energies enter into Madai. And thus Madai became this most empowered personality. And that was enabled or encouraged by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy, though he was so angry enough to call his chakra. He wanted Lord Nityananda to bestow this unbelievable mercy. And this is the inconceivable potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now we have some glimpse as to why we call him Mahavadana. Most merciful and most powerful. If we just take to this process, we should never, ever, ever think, what is the hope for me? I beg, don't ever think that. Because if we do, we are underestimating the potency of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. As we can see how immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda were able to deliver Jagai and Madai. It happened in minutes. How long is taking us to come to chant 16 rounds? How long is taking us to come and do all these things? Just take the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you want the mercy, bring Chaitanya Charitamrita into your home. This Chaitanya Charitamrita is bringing the mercy of Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda into your home. And as I was saying earlier, one set is not enough. We should have one for every house member. Like we have a cell phone for each person. There's so much potency. And if you don't have Gaurnitai deities, I beg all of you, please bring Gaurnitai deities into your home as soon as possible. Srila Prabhupada established that even if you keep Gaurnitai deities as dolls in the bookshelf, and there is no harm, there is great benefit. They are so merciful. If you cannot cook for them, what they'll eat, your chanting of the holy names. Just chant with them. But these Gaurnitai deities are so powerful and so merciful, and they're so tolerant. We don't have to have such high, strict standards of deity worship. Just some simple process. But it is my beg. Just please bring Chaitanya Charitamrita into your home and bring Gaurnitai into your home. It will be the great benediction of your life. And you'll bring this mercy of Mahavadanya, Krishna Prema Parayate. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. Reverence of Jagai Madai ki jai. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions? Question? Sorry, I went a little bit long today. I apologize. Please forgive me. But any discussion, comments? Yes.
Another question, just if you could speak a little bit more about the importance of having Gaurnitai in our home. Like, what is we said a little bit something.
So Gaurnitai is, Archa Vigraha, deity worship, is very important for us, particularly for Grihastas. Grihastha life is successful only when we make Krishna the center of our Grihastha life. And the primary means to make our home Krishna-centric is to have nice deity worship in the home. So Srila Prabhupada established that all Grihasthas who are not living at the temple should have some basic worship. It doesn't have to be elaborate like the temple. Elaborate worship is for the temple. But some basic worship of Archa Vigraha is so important for us. Because Krishna manifests himself in the Archa Vigraha to allow us to develop our relationship with Krishna and ultimately become free of our material attachments. Deity worship is the prime means of becoming free from all of our material attachments as our attraction for the deities grow. And so this deity worship is so important. And Chaitanya, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Gaurnitai, they're very merciful. We're not going to be so expert in our deity worship, particularly at home. We have Grihastha realities that we deal with. Timing, different issues that manifest, and there's, offerings start sometimes late, early, all these things happen. And Srila Prabhupada's guidance is that Gaurnitai is very forgiving. It doesn't mean we should take advantage of that and be negligent in our service, but if we remain enthusiastic to whatever the best of our ability, they accept. And so Srila Prabhupada wanted that every home should have Gaurnitai deities. That was not every devotee's home, not every home where they're chanting 16 rounds. No, he said every home should have Gaurnitai deities. And that's why he went to say, as far as say, even if they're just kept as dolls in a bookcase, there is no harm. Because we can see, with just a little bit of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's mercy, how much our life will be transformed for the better. And so this, and to bring, again, what is the possibility of us bringing, the president of some country to our home? It'll happen?
No.
And how we can bring the Supreme Personality of Godhead to our home? It is only the mercy of Guru Parampara. That is the only way it can happen. But we don't always see it. We see deity, we don't see Krishna. Premanjara charita bhakti vilochanena. We have not had, our eyes are not yet anointed with love. But we should understand this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda themselves. It is not deity. It is Krishna and Lord Balaram themselves. And they are coming into our home. What extraordinary fortune we have. And that, even if I don't worship them so elaborately, still they'll be happy. What could be more Mahavadhanaya? So we should have no hesitation. Just bring. And you'll see. You can speak of your own experience since you brought Gauranitai. What experience you've had in worshiping them and how it's transformed your own.
Yeah, it's been they've been such a big blessing. We had them since last April. I can feel that some kind of a personal relationship has been established, especially and more we have brought in more discipline in our spiritual life as well. But our worship is very, very simple. We don't keep it very complicated. Just very, very basic stuff. Only one time we kind of offering whatever we can. If it's more than that, fine. So, yeah. But, it's mercy, and it was Prabhuji only got it from Vrindavan, and yeah, it's been very nice. But we have been, I think we're committing so many offenses also, Prabhuji. But hopefully, as you said, they're very merciful and kind. So.
Can't be more offenses than Jagai and Madai. Just don't do them intentionally and don't repeat them.
Yeah.
That is the main. We do our best. Krishna knows what's in here. He knows what's in here. We just do our best. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next question on the Vaishnava Prad. What are things that are considered as the Vaishnava Prad?
What is considered Vaishnava Prad? So, basic, sort of logic, which is anything that is, again, offensive to a devotee, where we criticize a devotee, where we speak negatively about a devotee, we inflict any kind of disturbance in a devotee. We try to, we disturb their service to Krishna in some way. That's Vaishnava Prad. And, we're going to inadvertently always make mistakes. No one's perfect. And as long as we always maintain a very humble mood and we have the humility to ask for forgiveness, we'll always be protected in that. But we should be attentive to it and be very... The particular comment that's made here is blasphemy, which means, Vrindavan Das Thakur says, a group of sannyasis who are engaged in blasphemy is worse than a group of drunkards who are drinking. So we should be very careful. Sometimes it's more pleasing, sadly, to the ear to hear blasphemy of devotees than it is to hear glories of Krishna. It's very sad, but we should be very mindful of that and not tolerate the hearing of criticism of anybody. And from our own perspective, the single most best way to protect ourselves from Vaishnava Prad is humility. Whenever it is humility, then we'll be safe. Any other? Whole class can be on Vaishnava Prad also. And you all will beat me, and that won't be a Prad. That'll be mercy. That'll be mercy.
I have a
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
So like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like he delivered Jagai Madai, but then like when they were having the intimate like kirtans and all that, like neighborhood was disturbing them and then blaspheming them. Why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not like showering mercy on them, like make them devotees and bring them on board instead?
That's a good question. So, what Jagai and Madai, remember, they both desired the mercy. So first, Jagai fell at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then Madai, seeing that, also begged the mercy. And it was bestowed. So mercy is there for all of us, but we have to want it. So those who were envious of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were not seeking the mercy. And so then it will not transform the heart. Right? So the mercy is there, but we have to do our part. And our part is to desire to have it. And just like we can sit there and wish the sun was out, wish the sun was out, wish the sun was out. Sun comes out and we're stuck here in the basement. What good. We have to go out and receive the sun. Right? So we can pray for Krishna's mercy, but when it comes, we have to go and take it. So those who were not transformed, ultimately were not receiving the mercy. Like Lord Nityananda Haridas Thakur, they're going door to door. They weren't selecting, let's go this house, but let's not go to this house. They went to every house. And they tried. Again, whose responsibility is it if they take it or not? Krishna's, right? But that individual has to express their own desire to take it. And that's where, again, in ignorance, we're given this greatest of gift. Am I going to take it or not? So we have to take the mercy. We have to want the mercy. That's why. That's why not everyone will be delivered. But everyone has the potential to be delivered. That's the key. Nobody is precluded from being delivered. But we have to pay some price. And what is that price? Eagerness. Our price to pay is eagerness for it.
And also now that you mentioned, I thought of a point that Jagai Madai did not do any offense against any devotees, but then those neighborhood people were doing offense by blaspheming them. So how did they do that?
Jagai Madai also had some other fortune. They used to drink and be drunk at the ghat of the Ganges near Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's house. They would hear the kirtan and they would be singing and dancing in drunken stupor, thinking, what are these people doing? So the names were entering, and still there is some potency. The power of the holy name. Any other? Yes?
Prabhu, one doubt I had when you were mentioning about how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was furious, also how he was instructing Lord Nityananda to show the mercy. That I'm trying to imagine and picturize it, Prabhu. Can you elaborate more on that?
It shows ultimately Krishna's mood. He's so compassionate. He's so loving. But like a loving father, sometimes he has to show a little bit of sternness to, keep us in line. But ultimately, Father doesn't like to show that sternness. Right? He likes to show love. But that feature is required for certain things. So it also shows it's the instinct. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna himself, he can tolerate all offenses to himself. Right? When any demon attacks Krishna, you never see him angry. He's playing. It is play for him. Right? He doesn't get angry. But we saw him in a rage of furor when he comes to kill Hiranyakashipu. Right? That furor, nobody has seen. Nobody could even subdue it. Lord Shiva would not go, Lord Brahma would not go, nobody would go. Lord Ganesh would not go, nobody would go. That furor did not. Why? Because Hiranyakashipu was performing Vaishnava, was tormenting Prahlad Maharaj. So we see that Krishna becomes very upset with that. But we still see in the end, Krishna has the desire to see all of his children purified and come back home to him. Right? So when he saw that Madai immediately went and surrendered to Lord Nityananda. He didn't say, "Oh no, I can't do that." He's the humble heart. There was humility in Madai's heart. He did not take a moment of hesitation to surrender and beg for forgiveness. Why conflict exists? Because we can't ask for forgiveness. But Madai, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that. And he's reciprocating. He said, Lord Nityananda, he's asking for forgiveness. You should forgive. Don't hold a grudge. Krishna never holds a grudge. We hold grudges, but Krishna doesn't. So that's how we can understand both sides of that.
So like you said, the first time when they went to see Jagai Madai, they wanted to face them and then give them mercy and everything. But then why did they, run away with fear?
Well, they were running away joking and laughing with each other. But it's all pastime, right? They have different reasons and time, place, and circumstance in which they're going to deliver ultimately. And so that we can understand it in that way. And of course, Lord Nityananda wanted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to deliver them. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them that they're already delivered because of you.
Yes.
We always fight for credit. Devotees always give credit. that's the nature of the world that it works. And of course, these pastimes for us are very instructive, right? If we start to peel back the layers, who are Jagai and Madai? Jai and Vijay.
That's what I'm about to ask.
So, okay, so there's a Krishna can only get very intimately involved in these pastimes with his devotees. And we know Jai and Vijay, they were given a chance of 7 times as devotee, 3 times as demons. So, one reason they picked 3 is less than 7. But the deeper reason they picked 3 demons is because they know Krishna also likes this rasa of battle. But Krishna does not enjoy battling with demons. He only enjoys with his devotees. So they took the role to give Krishna that rasa. Right? But their 3rd time was up. But when they heard, wait, Krishna's coming back, we want to come back also. We want to come again. So they picked 4 to participate in this. And of course, this shows the most extraordinary deliverance. And we saw all the different examples. He talks about Gajendra's, great deliverance. And he was offering you a flower at least. I did not. I mean, it's amazing. These prayers are so sweet. They go through so many beautiful other deliverance, saying this was the most extraordinary. So that's it. Yes.
I think I may have asked you this before, but as far as deities go, is there any more potency with Gauranitai deities versus like an acrylic picture of Gauranitai?
Only in our consciousness.
Okay, thank you. Probably.
There is no more potency in Gaur Nitai, the names, the deity, the person, the pastimes. But because we don't yet perceive the potency fully in the names, Krishna is manifest also in his Archa Vigraha. Right? So, but actually there is no, because Krishna is absolute. He's absolute. The pictures are just as potent. But the deity form gives us an opportunity to do a little bit more worship. You can do abhisheking, dressing. So it's,
right.
But in terms of potency, there's no difference.
Intimate relationship.
Yeah. You can render a different type of service, but again, Dhruva Maharaj made a deity out of mud. and worship. And what was the result of that deity worship? Perfection. He saw Lord Vishnu himself. So, it is about consciousness ultimately. Okay, shall we end? It's 9 o'clock. Sorry. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada. Ki jai. Antakoti Vaishnavrinda. Ki jai. Krishna. Jai.